My name is Mark Romania from Highclere Consulting, based here in Brasov, and we are responsible for the policy work inside of the FarmWell project. Firstly, we see policy as basically being about communication and clearly communicating the relevance of the FarmWell work to, I say policymakers, but probably actually it's more useful to say decision makers. People who are in a position of making decisions that can influence, for example, the availability of funding, of money for social innovation, but also people who are making decisions in important organizations, such as farm advisory organizations, such as non-governmental organizations, such as businesses. This is not a policy project. We don't have large amounts of money or large amounts of time in order to make detailed policy analysis. But what we do have is a range of very, very interesting partners. First of all, a range of people with very, very broad experience who've been making some very interesting investigations through these case studies and piloting into the way that social innovations can actually contribute to the well-being, mental health, physical well-being, etc. of farmers. The process that we're working through is basically harvesting their experience. And I say harvesting because in many ways this is about collecting the fruits of their experience. Some of that experience is professional experience, and some of it has actually been collected through this process of connecting with practice, bringing together research, etc., etc. So when we talk about farmers and policy, we immediately start thinking about this thing called the Common Agricultural Policy. And certainly inside of the Common Agricultural Policy, there are lots of opportunities for supporting social innovation, including social innovations which are of benefit to farmers, farm workers, farming families, and also very importantly, for example, in the context of here in Romania, are communities of farmers. Some of those opportunities relate specifically to the money which is available for rural development. Other opportunities relate to the money which is available, for example, for training and advisory services. The money available, for example, for local action groups funded by LEADER. But also there are some other important obligations sitting inside of particularly the new Common Agricultural Policy, which relate to the social conditions associated with our food production systems, the so-called social conditionality, which is now a new obligation in the CAP. What are the likely country variations? Potentially huge, because although in Europe we have a Common Agricultural Policy, that Common Agricultural Policy is interpreted and implemented at the level of the individual member states. So making creative, effective, efficient use of the funding which is available depends very much upon creative policy making at the level of the individual member states. Beginning actually with just raising awareness of social innovation amongst policymakers and decision makers, so that they take it seriously and that they consider it in their policy making processes. But we shouldn't only concentrate on or focus on national level policy making, because there are other levels of policy making which can be regional, can be more local. We should also not forget the importance of local authorities, of local councils, and as I've mentioned also very importantly, of course, local action groups and these public-private partnerships which we find throughout most of rural Europe. At the end of the day, it's all about putting the right words in the right place at the right time in front of the right people. So we need to be a little bit strategic. We need to be clear who we're aiming our recommendations at. There are some opportunities at a European level. we're not so sure at a national level, but certainly when we get down to some regionals and some regions, particularly there are some regions where social innovation is particularly well considered. There are opportunities there. And also there's just this ongoing discussion in most of the member states about strengthening the, let's call it the knowledge economy around agriculture, strengthening advisory services, strengthening innovation support services. There's some very important discussions still going on about, creating that space where we can bring people together to create solutions, address real needs, and create solutions to the real challenges that they face.